Hey, how's it going? So today I want to talk about Nightcrawlers. Came out in 2014. Please observe the YouTube disclaimer signs that are in green. And by the way, God, I'm so dumb. I kind of realized what my problem is with green in my videos. It's the green screen effect, dummy. That's why stuff kept disappearing. But I noticed that with those in here, I guess that color, that's not happening, so I'm just going to go with that. And, so Nightcrawlers. I just put the main cast that to me matters, and I wrote it off of the list that was on IMDb, and I realized that it's like alphabetical because the main cast which is who I chose to put on there, was like completely separated from one another, and I thought it might have been in order of appearance, and that might be the case. I didn't look to see if it was order of appearance or alphabetical order that had like Jake Gyllenhaal on top and like all of the other co-stars way at the back, mostly. So that was weird. I thought. Not that big of a deal, But so anyway, this was another one of those movies that was really hard to watch. And I had in my mind what they said about it, what I remember. So let's remember this is 2014 and memory seems to falter and decay during interims. But what I thought was going to happen with this movie was that it was going to be a TMZ situation where there were, I guess I hesitate to call them reporters, but they're out there gathering information, hunting down not facts, but famous people. So, we know facts too. I'm not trying to put TMZ down at all. I have many feelings about TMZ, and I have to go away and come back because a lot. But I gotta admire that agency for what they do, and yeah. Go in there, TMZ. I know you're waiting for my approval. Anyway, that's not what it was about, as it turns out. And see, what it is about is independent reporting and news contractors. They're, they gather video, video. And it never really occurred to me that was a thing, because you always see news trucks and news helicopters. I always figured they had it handled. They had it covered. But I guess, according to this movie, there are subcontractors out there they have their, what do you call those things? The radios that you can hear the police on. Well, police radio. They have those, and they listen to those transmissions so they know where the emergencies and the tragedies are happening. And so it makes sense to me that is a thing in reality. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I really apologize for that. I don't know what happened. Okay, so I felt like once it got started, it was a story of desperation, like desperate people that are in search of power. That's why I wrote power and desperation at the bottom, to kind of remind myself what I wanted to sort of stick to, because I tend to wander off the subject. So it's not it doesn't start in a linear way, it kind of jumps around just a little bit. It's not a time travel movie or anything. But the guy that Jake Gyllenhaal plays, Louis Bloom, is a creepy little weird guy. He has his little speeches that he comes up with, and He sounds like, now I can't even remember the guy's name. There was a really smarmy guy on the, I think, 50s black and white TV series, Leave It to Beaver, Wally. And Wally would always chat up the mother, and he'd be real polite, but he had this like icky undertone, and it was like a joke on the show, and he was supposed to be harmless, but if you consider over the years what that turned into, like Wally could have turned into, what is that horrible guy from the movie studio, Weinberg, Harvey Weinberg. Wally could have turned into Harvey Weinberg. Like, I think that was the ickiness underlying that I was feeling. Anyway, he had that kind of vibe, Louis Bloom. He's got a lot of sort of self-help sounding, uplifting sounding, and really back yourself up. And for me, just the appearance, I'm sure, is supposed to give you this impression, but dude's hair is like greasy. Like, it doesn't look like product. It just looks unwashed. And he's like small, and I don't know. I guess Jake Gyllenhaal might not be like a tall guy. He might be one of those small statured guys, but it seems like in this he's sort of shrunken and falls into himself, even though he's talking a big talk. So it's like I could see that whole dynamic, and it seems like everybody else could, because the first scene that he's in, the scrapyard owner guy, he's up there. He doesn't have a blue underline of importance, but it was Marco Rodriguez that played him. And he really, gave him a wake-up speech. Like, dude, you can give all the speeches you want, but the person you're presenting, I don't want nothing to do with. Like, the reason that he was there at the scrapyard, and basically the guy was like, Lou Bloom was trying to get a job. He was there to sell scrap, but the guy was unhappy with the origin of the scrap because I guess the police came by talking about, where did you get this scrap, because some was stolen that looks like just this exact same scrap. So he was like, dude, I don't want you. You are trouble. So there went that job. And then, the next thing you know, the dude is like, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. But he starts off desperate, right? Lou Bloom starts off a desperate, greasy, little smarmy character. And, good job, Jake Gyllenhaal, because if you're going for unlikable, bingo! And he only gets worse. So it's great. And then, let's see. It's hard to... Trying not to give you a beautiful view up my nose. Okay, I can read it forwards, but I can't see it very well. Yep, these big old honking glasses are not doing a whole lot to help my vision right now. It's not the fault of the glasses. So, Lou Bloom accidentally stumbles upon the job of becoming a Nightcrawler, and after he gets his lesson from the pawn shop guy, he tries to pull the same shtick at his pawn shop. And the pawn shop guy, of course, has 30 Louis Blooms a day coming in with a story and some piece of junk of questionable origin. So he's not really playing with him either. But, he's a businessman, and Bloom is persistent. He's not walking out of there without something, money or something. He's a hustler, which I don't have the highest opinion of hustlers. And you will not of this one. He's terrible, basically. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But he is able to get himself a camera, and that's kind of where everything starts. Because, between the scrapyard and the pawn shop, I think he's seen the actual professional news crawlers at work, the ones with agencies or from agencies. And he decides to take this camera he's seen and he's able to get his hands on and to be an independent Nightcrawler. And the name is not complimentary. I mean, basically, the first thing I think of when I hear Nightcrawler is a worm. And no offense to worms, but, I mean, are you going to have a worm to your table? No. You know what I'm saying? They're not, safe for tables. Anyway, so he gets the camera, and he happens upon the scene where he sees, the Nightcrawlers at work, and that's why he goes ahead and gets the camera. It's like, light bulb, I'll do this. And he gets into it, and, he at first is not good at it. He doesn't know where to be, and, doesn't really know what he's looking for. He doesn't know what to do with the footage once he's got it. He's just has these, serendipitous little bits of information that keeps popping up, and it's sort of helping him build knowledge and, learn how to do stuff and get a little credibility, and then he starts being able to make money. But at the same time, there's these established places that are out there, like I said, agencies, and they don't, like one is kind of a jerk and puts Bloom down, which if you, continue all the way through this movie, or if you might have already picked up on this, like, you probably don't want to talk a bunch of crap to this guy and treat him like he's a worm, lower than you, lower than low, under your shoe. So, he's basically taking note of these things, like making a list and checking it twice and keeping track of who was naughty to him, because guys like that just take it and then later they explode on you and like kill or something. So it's bad. Don't mess with people like that. It's something you could learn here. So he gets out there and he meets one agency, and they're jerks to him. But then he meets the one. He meets the guy that runs one, and he sees that Bloom is a potential competitor. And instead of being a jerk to him and putting him down, he tries to, include him in his own agency, like make him a part of it, like join us, come on, and Bloom's not having it, though, because Bloom wants it to be all about Bloom. And he sees, though, this guy that is so nice that he's learned so much from, that he's basically stolen his techniques and information from him. And the guy has been kind enough to impart some helpful information, And what does he do? I'm just going to say that he absolutely turns on this guy in the worst possible way you can imagine. And, of course, it's in the script. It would mess up the story if it didn't go this way. But I was just amazed at the kibbles and bits on this guy. It's just in the daylight in LA, which is where I'm from, and I can tell you, we're suspicious for a reason. Like, if I would have seen this greasy little man, like, his clothes and his body, whatever, seemed fine. But the hair, like, this, what a greasy hank of hair is? For me, it's a certain, man, you need to wash that stuff situation. It comes with a smell. Like, if it's natural grease enough to do what his hair was doing, and I know that's not really what it was, but it looked like it really well, really closely and believably. Like, it just, ew, it just looked icky, and so icky from the head down, I guess. Good acting there, Jake Gyllenhaal. You look terrible. But if I would have seen this guy, and then he's like, I think Jake Gyllenhaal is slimmer than usual, like, because it kind of goes with the crazy and the kind of just getting by life that the guy has. Because boy, when you see his inside of his apartment, it is pitiful. It is sparse. It is spare. It is pitiful. It's like, obviously you don't bring people home to spend the night. You've got like a single person bed, like tucked into a nook. It's, I don't know. I mean, maybe that I shouldn't characterize that as sad though, because, well, for one thing, many of us could be living in a pitiful little nook soon because we're doing housing really badly. We're kind of messing it up, doing all of the wrong things. Side note, I guess. Done with that. But there's no missing. You get a pretty strong impression of what this guy is like. So he doesn't have much. People don't think much of him. And he just wants to get ahead like everybody else. But he takes stuff so personal. So, as I was saying, if I lived in LA and I knew my neighbors, which some of us do and some of us don't. So those were houses, I think. And people in houses may know their neighbors a little bit more than people in apartments for a lot of different reasons I'm not going to go into. But I think houses, people are going to notice some greasy little guy sneaking up someone's driveway, and you're like, well, I don't know that person to live there. So we just see him coming out, but he's been up to no good. And, meanwhile, he's competing with everyone else out there doing the Nightcrawler thing. He puts out an ad, I guess, and gets an applicant, Rick, and Rick is desperate. Rick is like homeless. He's couch surfing. He doesn't know if he's gonna have another couch to go to soon. He's hungry, literally, like he needs to eat some food right now, and he needs money. In LA, I'll tell you, there's a few reasons why I don't live there anymore, because that's where I was born, in Los Angeles, California. Like close enough to Hollywood to actually be called Hollywood, as opposed to all of the other places that are miles and miles and miles and miles and miles away from Hollywood. Mine is probably my place of birth, the actual hospital, which is no longer there, is a 4-minute drive to Hollywood, if, it's very close. So anyway, it is very hot there, which I didn't like, even though I was born there, and my family is from hot places, not LA, but hot places in the South. I don't know how I hate heat, but I don't like it. So that was the reason I left. And the other was expense. Like, it just got to be too much, and I got sick with my major crazy illness down there, too, so I wasn't working for a while. But when I was working, I wasn't like, making myself rich or anything. I found it very difficult, but anyway, I know that, like, a lot of people have their eyes on you and your stuff, so you're suspicious. There have been tons of serial killers and rapists, so you're like locking up all the everything, but it's really hot, so you sort of can't, because I don't know if this is still true, but there was not like air conditioner just automatically in places when you moved in, which I always thought was insane. Is if you weren't going to have a pool, which most of the places I lived at, apartments did not have them, you could at least have air conditioner, but no. And when I lived there, like, I moved away before it became 100,000 degrees. It was only 1,000 degrees when I lived there. But anyway, I just think that people would have noticed, somebody would have noticed this dude that doesn't belong there sort of slinking out of this driveway early in the day, like, what's going on? Like, yeah, in the early morning, like, what is going on there? Because, some old person is always sitting by a window looking out, or, whatever. It's also really crowded. People are awake around the clock. I just think it's weird that, whatever. Anyway, he was not up to any good in there. So, he finds ways to outdo his competition. Like he sweet talks the newsroom lady, excuse me, director, the newsroom director, I think was her title. Nina, played by the fabulous Renee Russo. Okay, like, her role also really struck me because she had. I'm just gonna automatically apply it from personal experience. Like I said, I'm from LA. Hollywood actually is mostly where I lived as an adult, child, from 11 years old or so. I lived in actual Hollywood. So you grow up with it. Like, it's, if you don't live in actual Hollywood itself, you don't deal with as many Hollywood and industry people and their children and the industry. So it's like, it makes a difference. Like, if you're in Hollywood and you're within 10 miles of it, and you're the difference between you're 23 miles away or 57 miles away. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not all Hollywood. Like, everyone says, oh, Hollywood. Dumb. What is the word? I can't think. Well, personal things that pisses you peak. No, I don't know. I don't like it though when everything's just all generic. Hollywood this, it's not though. It's words have meanings for a reason. Okay. Anyway, so I could kind of relate to, okay, that she would have reasons for being desperate, like at her age, and she's not even in front of the camera, but she's expected to look like she's going to appear there at any time. In fact, if you work at McDonald's, you could feel the pressure to look a certain way, all the time, and present a certain way, and image, and that, oh my God, is exhausting. And then, like I said, she's older, so her useful by time is tick-tocking closer, and that'll wear on you. Like, I thought of, I remember, shoot, I don't remember the woman's name, but Phil Spector killed her. Like, she was a waitress at, I think, the Hard Rock Cafe, and he talked her into coming home with him, and then I guess she didn't know that he was a nut job with guns and alcohol, and I'm assuming drugs, because he acted more than drunk from what I've seen of drug people and drunk people, and I've seen a lot. And just really talented, which also I think brings you close to insanity. Like, if you're really intelligent or if you're really talented, I think you're just that much closer to insanity, or to what we call insanity. Don't get all into other stuff. But anyway, she was desperately trying to be an actress for her adult life, and she just wasn't really making it. You get big roles that get you nowhere in Hollywood, and you get a little money and you get a little buzz for a minute, and it's gone, and people forget you just as quickly unless there's something exceptional about you. So that's where this woman was at too, in this show. Nina. She is of a certain age and she has a place, but like Bloom pointed out, she was on a very brief contract, which was sort of like, yeah, we'll keep you, but you're on thin ice. Like, that's the feeling I get from something like that. Like, you got to worry about it every 2 freaking years, and how long had she been there and worked so hard and kept it all pretty and cute behind the camera for the people that needed that, which, are usually like older men. And great. Like, as if you don't have enough going on with your life, you got to worry about how you look to please somebody else. As you can see, I do not subscribe to that. Anyway, so yeah, she had a lot to worry about, and then Bloom, being like the psycho that he is, has that incredible ability to hone in on your insecurities and your weaknesses, and he's not a dumb guy either, by the way. So they actually do well with each other, and even like the dude is not like good with women or people, really. He's very I want to say off-putting, but I want to say more than off-putting. He's like, there's something disturbing about him. If you've got like a little bit of intuition at all, you're gonna catch a buzz of this dude ain't right. Maybe this dude is dangerous. So, but in her position or as a woman, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen to men or whatever other gender or whatever you want to present with or associate yourself with. I can only speak to my experience. So as a woman, you also have to worry about what do men want from you, and how are they going to go about getting it? Are they going to be cool? Are they going to be nice? Are they going to be like overpowering and weird and scary and don't want you to say anything, don't want to let you do anything? Like, there's so many like things you got to worry about, and then, well, okay, not be worried, but just be cognizant of like this could happen. So I have to be alert to the red flags that'll lead to something happening that I really don't want to happen. You just like, there's a lot. Everybody has stuff. Everybody has a lot. Like I said, I can only speak from a position that I can be somewhat authentic about. So, okay. She is single. That's going to wear on you. Like, I don't know what the history was, so I'm not even going to try with that. Like, they didn't present it, so I'm not going to even go there. But at the time that movie came out, she was probably around the age that I am now, which is like I'm going to be 60 my next birthday, but I would say that she was probably somewhere between 49 and 59. She looked good, but I don't know. I can't really judge that. So, but somewhere in the range of where I am now. And if you're single, you're kind of thinking about, well, what if I go infirm? Who's going to take care of me? I know I don't want to go to a home. I don't have anything to steal, so that might earn me some abuse. I don't want to think about that right now, to be honest. But someone like her or myself, we do occasionally have to think of that. And if she was working at the place and had gotten accustomed to a certain lifestyle just on her own, and that went away, it's like, who's going to catch me? And, it's like there's a lot to worry about. So, I mean, and then her job, she's got to maintain like a high level of quality there, and then gets attention because of the news industry. If you know anything about it, there's a saying called if it bleeds, it leads, which means you could have a beautiful, happy redemption story of a puppy saving a child, whatever beautiful thing, and if a bunch of people got shot in the head at a hamburger stand, that's going to go first, and the other story that's going to be happy and make people feel good is going to get thrown in the hopper, which stinks, but that's capitalism for you. Cha-ching! So, in order to maintain her tenuous job and contract, she's got to constantly have a flow of interesting information that draws eyeballs and clicks. And they are the local homegrown station. And I'll tell you, in the movie it's KWCA or KWLA, but in reality it's KTLA, and it's channel 5, not channel 6 like it is in the movie. Unless they did a weird station change thing, which they did in, like, I think the 80s with UPN, and I think there was another independent station, and Fox changed and things got all weird and messed up. That was a bad turn for television as far as I'm concerned as a consumer / viewer. But anyway, it is the local station. It's not an ABC, NBC, CBS. It's independent, so it's fighting for airspace, even though it would have some of the best local coverage. Still does, because I can, thanks to the internet, see some of the stations there if I want. But it's was always been like trying. It's been a goer, like not giving up. It's the Energizer Bunny, And if she can't like keep the numbers up to where they're above water at least, then they're not going to keep her. They're going to go for someone younger that's going to get even more eyeballs on that show on the television, which is also having problems. 2014, I think that wasn't such an issue, but just beginning. So, yeah, enough about her desperation because I'm really going over. The last things I want to talk about are Joe Loader, who was a competitor that tried to take on Bloom rather than have him be a competitor. And Bloom pays back his generosity by stealing one of his sources of income, KWLA, and bringing them, like snaking him on stuff. And here's where the slinking up his driveway comes into things. What do you think he was doing up there? I don't want to be like the queen of spoilers here, but let's just say he was under the van that Joe Loader was using to go out and, follow up on the reports on the police bulletins on the radio, police radio. So, yeah, sabotage. I'll just say it. He sabotaged him, and he almost killed the guy. And the way that the crash happened, I know this is the way that it was in the script. In reality, it would be something different. Maybe, like, I don't know. It sounds like they're pretty lax and negligent on vehicle accident fatalities I've been seeing in the news. Like, anyway, don't get sidetracked. So, it's just like everyone just sort of went, oh, that's weird that he crashed that way, and he didn't die. But, well, he didn't die immediately, but he's in really bad shape. Like, that you're in bad shape when they, don't use the stretcher and they pull out the rigid backboard that they actually have to hold and walk with. It doesn't have wheels, but that signifies that you're in bad shape, pal. And he was in such bad shape. They had him in like a neck brace, and he's on the backboard, and he's got big scared eyes because he's been in this horrible accident, and he's realizing before it happens, hey, I don't have no brakes, or steering is not happening, or something like that. But he knows it's not right, like he knows something he's been sabotaged. He knows it. And so as they're taking him away, who comes up and sticks a camera literally like right in his face? Poor guy, but Lou Bloom. And right then you can see as Bill Paxton's already big and scared eyes just get bigger and bigger and bigger because he realizes this is who sabotaged my van. Of course it is. Of course he would. He's such a little jerk. I tried to be nice to him. Like, you can see all of this going over this guy's face because basically the character doesn't have those mean bones, like he offered to help the guy, like to take him on because he was new, he didn't know anything, and this is how you repay me. And, it's not good. I mean, it's good for the story, but the character is no bueno. Messed up. So And he wasn't desperate. He just has a blue underline because he was the primary character that got just taken out like he was nothing, man. It's not cool. And I just said that he took him out like he was nothing, and wasn't that like the thing that everyone always did to Mr. Bloom all the time, was treat him like he was invisible or nothing? And I know the more he tried, the better it didn't become. Is because of you could tell he was off. He could try as much as he wanted. Like, he didn't have enough sense to like get the grease out of his hair for a while. So, yeah. That didn't go well. And then I wanted to talk about, the guy that he hired. That guy, like, I think I talked about how he was homeless, he didn't have money. I may not have talked about it because I wrote notes, I might just be thinking about that. But, Bloom tries to come across as this totally together guy, and that he has this agency, and that's when he's just starting out. So he's already talking a bunch of crap, and this guy is like, yeah, I guess I did talk about it. He's hungry, he just needs somewhere to sleep. And that was kind of his desperation, like that he just needed a job, and he'd been looking and being unsuccessful. And then, he gets into an argument with Bloom about the guy. Like, at first he just wants to hire him as an intern, and then he like gives him a little tiny raise out of all this money that he's made, because obviously he went from having a Toyota hatchback that was very wasn't new to having like a totally stupid, bombastic, bright red Dodge, I think, Charger. And so this guy is working for him, and he's like sleeping in a garage or something, and he's like hungry all the time, and he's like, yo, I'm sure, like in his head, like, I'm out here busting my ass too, where's my share? Because he just talked him out of not making him be just a free, unpaid intern. He did get like a little money out of him, but dang, Bloom's a chinster. He's just like tight-fisting all of the funds. And so, this has gone on for a while by the time they start arguing about it, and it happens at a time in the movie that's really like tense and dangerous and stressful for the viewer, stressful for poor Rick, because he sees all this going on, and he's already told the guy they've had a couple of confrontations where he actually expressed to Bloom, like, you're like this and that and the other thing, and you do this to people, and you do this to me, and it's not good. Like, you can say these things to people, and usually they're not going to turn around later and do something retaliatory to you. But that is not Lou Bloom. This Bloom. He does not like being told things about himself that are actually true. And I think it was kind of like he already had a very high opinion of himself, even though I think he knew that his opinion of himself was overblown to the reality. Obviously, he would look at someone like Rick, and he did treat him this way, as if he thought he was less of a person, less of a human being, less entitled to being treated decently, and for like his worth. Like, pay the guy so he can live like a human being. And Bloom doesn't say stuff, though. He just takes it in, and like I said, he just ticks a box on his list, and it's like a shit list. It's like a you done fucked up with me list. And this night at this location where, oh my God, Bloom has done some terrible things that are, I'm sure, illegal, just to enhance his news footage. Like, I don't know the names of the crimes, but I'm sure they are crimes, what he was doing. Creating dangerous situations for the sake of his own ability to be able to film something exciting to then turn around and go sell, that can't be legal. And so he's had this argument, and then he makes his co-worker there, who's complained a few times, justifiably, by the way, he makes him actually leave the vehicle and just go stand out in the open, pretty much. And like he's tells him to go stand in a place where he is going to be absolutely exposed, and it does not end well. And this guy, Bloom is such a ghoul. He comes up and films this guy dying too, and also this guy realizing and able to speak. Like, oh my God, you did this to me. I'm murdered now because of you. And now you're going to film it and sell it. Which he does. Like, after he edits out talking, first he lies that he has it to the police. And then, the detective. That woman, she saw him right away for what he was. She just was like, I don't have anything on you, right? Throw you in jail, throw away the key. And even at the end, I'm like screaming at her. The guy has this terrible effect on women, though. Like, there's a scene, I'm going to get back to the detective, but I'm going to go back to Nina, because there's a scene in the control room where she kicks everybody out. And it's darkened in there, so they're kind of like silhouetted. Well, they're absolutely silhouetted. And there's very little light in the background, but they're backlit by it. And it's like a tense scene. It's a little power struggle where Bloom wants more money and more recognition, and Nina's limited on what she can give him, but this is where he starts getting in her face about her worth to the station, and that's got to hit home to her worth center in herself, which nobody wants to hear somebody picking at your worth. Like, you can do that just fine yourself. Thank you very much. And that's when he hits on her too, because he thinks he has a moment of vulnerability, and they're real close to each other, and their faces are getting closer and closer in profile. And I'm sitting there going, don't kiss him, don't kiss him, don't kiss him, don't kiss him, don't kiss him. And they didn't, thank God. But the same thing happened later in the movie after all this terrible stuff has happened, and the detective has come to his place, has talked to him a couple of times. So, and like I said, she knew, first viewing, she knew what was up with him. She knew he was rotten to the core, and she was 100% correct. So, toward the end, she has him in the interrogation room, and he's slippery, sliding around. Like, he's not a legal expert or anything, but he just has an innate knowledge of how to weasel out of legal problems to just, he hides stuff, and he cuts stuff out of the videos, and he holds back stuff. So he knows what he's doing, and he's doing just enough to not be able for the detective to not get him. And it's so frustrating for her, and it's so frustrating for me. And when the scene happens, I don't really realize how close the end of the movie is, but I'm thinking she can still get him, but she loses her temper with him. And I'm like, no, don't let him know that he's got you mad, that he's got your goat. Like, it was just like she lost right then and there. And then, like, the movie ends not long after that. So there is there's probably, like, in the universe of the fictional story, there is, I'm sure, events that can take place where she will eventually get him and get him in jail. But, oh man. So she's desperate to get him and get him put away, and she doesn't get to do it, so she just gets to stay desperate. Dang it. So I guess my final things to say about this now, because I'm getting really long here, is that Bloom's desperation actually went into a state of power because he began to be able to manipulate things to his benefit. And you think that the detective is going to get him, and then she doesn't. She's not able to get him. So at the end, he's just free. to continue like making his own news, which is frightening. And I mean, I can only say if there were a sequel, only more mayhem would be to come. But yeah, his desperation, he was able to turn it into power, and I think we see a lot of that in life, in reality today, with politicians and the kind of situations that are happening right this very minute in the world. We can see the parallels. So yeah, power and desperation. People are hungry for it, and they'll do ill-considered things. And when I say ill-considered, I mean as far as it's going to relate to the way it's going to affect other people. Okay, now I think I'm done. Thank you and good night. I missed.